Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UWC podcast. I'm your host, Fotis Stamos, and with me, as always, my co-host, Claudia Leitzman. Claudia, I feel like having a martini now. What do you think?
I would love that. It's 10 a.m., but it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Exactly. And all thanks to our guest, who is a familiar face, but also a very passionate, driven individual. Let's welcome to the podcast Johnny Livanos, the founder of Straight Dog Gin. Johnny, thank you so much for joining us once again on such a busy schedule that you have. That was just an inspiring video to begin with.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, I mean, as Claudia mentioned, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but I'm sure we can make excuses to taste that lovely gin. But in any event, Johnny, when we think of being of Greek descent and thinking of Greek beverages, we're thinking of wine, we're thinking of possibly national spirits like ouzo or tsipuro or raki, but why gin? Where did this come from?
Why gin? That is a great question. And first of all, let me say, Foti Claudia, it is a pleasure to be here with you all. I haven't been on the podcast in a while, so it's fun to be back. But why gin? That's a great question. Gin, well, first of all, it's a delicious beverage. I personally love gin. It's one of my favorite things to drink. But as a Greek American, right, you set that up nicely. As someone with a Greek culture and Greek descent, one of my biggest passions in life is sharing the flavors of Greece. I grew up in the restaurant business, Greek restaurants in New York, like many other Greek Americans. And something we love doing is sharing our recipes, whether it's our yayas, our babus, famous dish, or whether it's wine from the hometown where we're from. Gin isn't something Greece has a long history of, but they have a long history of distilling, a long history of using botanicals and spirits, like with ouzo or tsiporo. And Greece has some of the most delicious, fantastic, robust abundance of herbs and botanicals, like rosemary, oregano, sage, foscomilo, mastika, which is one of the most unique botanical ingredients in the world, only comes from Greece. And there's only one spirit that I know of where you could combine all those things together and make a beautiful thing, and that is gin. So gin was really, for me, the perfect blank canvas to showcase the flavors and ingredients that make Greece such a beautiful place and a beautiful culture and a beautiful cuisine and gastronomy. So it was the blank canvas to kind of set up a way for me to share my story and our story as Greeks.
And were you at some point in this discovery or this light bulb in your head thinking to yourself, are there any other gins? Were you like trying to research who else
Yeah.
is out there?
At that time, that while they were making some gin in Greece, they weren't Greek gin, right? There was, some distillers making London Dry or very, classic style gins in Greece, but nothing really that's was with the goal of embodying the Greek flavor. So, yeah, we are one of the first gins being made in Greece to showcase Greece as our whole concept.
Wow. And where can people find your product? Is it also in Greece? Is it just in the US at this time?
So we are growing. We are currently available in a few countries. So the United States is our main market since I do live here. I live in New York. So we are currently available in about 20 states in the US, plus Puerto Rico. We are also available in Greece throughout the whole entire country, from the Thessaloniki to Athens to all of the islands. And we are also available in Australia. But more to come soon. So we're focusing in the next few years on expanding throughout Europe and North America. But one step at a time. We're a small team and we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, we're now an international brand.
That's awesome. And I think if people want to go and find your product, you have a pretty great website. You kind of have all of the locations, right, on a map if you want to go
Yes,
and get some
we're always
products.
updating it. So if there might not be 100% accurate, but you could I'll go on our website, straightdoggin.com, and we have a map that shows many of the bars, restaurants, and stores that carry our product. And if you aren't located near any of those places, you can order us online uh,
Nice.
at uh,
Well, one of the platforms that actually you can find it is on Greekazon.com in the spirit section. you'll find the offerings of Stray Dog Gin that can get shipped right to your door.
There we go.
Wow, look at that cross promotion. I like
Right.
That's great. All
But
right, so Johnny, oh sorry, Foti, you go.
I was just gonna say, Johnny, this couldn't have come at a better time in the industry where, the last handful of years, the cocktail category has been explosive. And we're introducing, I'll use the word loosely, new drinkers in general, to categories that they probably would have started somewhere else, whether it been, the beer or the wine category, but cocktails seem to stay on fire.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And the timing of this entry of gin, I think, is just perfect timing on your part.
Well, what's fun about gin is that it's one of the most classic spirits. It's one of the oldest, it's one of the original spirits. And if you look at cocktail recipes from, the first cocktail books from the 1800s, gin is one of the main spirits they were using. So what's happening today with gin, which is what I find to be really exciting about the category, is we've expanded so much in the gin's long and interesting history, where today we have these new Western style gins, botanicals are being used, gins are representing different countries, and that allows the bartender or a home cocktail maker to explore and have so much creativity. 20 years ago, there were only what, four gins really available? Like you had your classic London dries, and then Hendrix came along, and then the game changed, and now you have gins from all over the world: Greece, Spain, Scotland, Japan, Africa, all over the United States. I mean, I think the US alone has probably over 200 gins from different parts of our country. So it's an exciting time to be in the cocktail world, to be in the spirits world, but especially to experiment with gin. This is, again, it's one of the classic spirits, but it's making a comeback. I think there are over 4,000 gins today. And
Wow.
so there's no shortage of options to be creative. But what I love about Stray Dog is that you are able to embody and capture that really earthy, herbal, savory, herbaceous flavor that the Mediterranean and Greece is known for, and showcase those flavors in your cocktails, whether you're going to mix it in a classic or make up something fun and new. You get a lot of inspiration by just smelling our gin. And if you have, I don't know if you're drinking right now, it's early in the morning, but if you had a glass in front of you and you were smelling it, I'm sure it would remind you a little bit of the motherland.
That's amazing. Wow. And I love that your brand is part of such a booming category, but your story is so unique that, the flavor profile will be completely different than anything else you've tried.
Totally. Yeah, we use a lot of unique botanicals that aren't normally found in classic gins, but are distinct to the Greek flavor and the Mediterranean.
Can you call out the list of botanicals, or is there
Yeah,
some
yeah.
secret sauce in
Sure.
there?
Yeah. So we try to keep our botanical mix limited. We only are using around 11 botanicals because we want you to really be able to distinguish each flavor that's in our gin. So number one botanical in all gin, juniper. So we use juniper that comes from the mountains of the northern Greece and the Balkans, so in the Balkan Peninsula. And then the botanicals that are for me the most special are wild sage, wild rosemary, and wild bay leaf. Those are sourced around the Greece and the mountains of northern Greece. Fennel seed is an important botanical for us because that is one of the main ingredients you use in one of the more classic spirits in Greece, ouzo. So we use fennel seed. And then mastika. Mastika is key to our gin because it is one of the most unique ingredients in the world. It's an ancient superfood. It's been produced in Greece for thousands of years. It only comes from one island, the island of Chios. And not only does it only grow on that one island, but in a small portion of this island. They cannot make mastika anywhere else. It's this unique resin that comes from the mastic trees. It's the original chewing gum. It looks like a little pebble, but it has, as you chew it, it breaks down and has a gum-like consistency. But the flavor is really unique. It's herbaceous, it's minty, it's vegetal, it's herbal. It's so much unique flavor in that one ingredient, and just a little goes a long way. So we use that as a one of our main botanicals to really kind of round out the flavor profile, and then Mediterranean citrus, orange and lemon peel to give it some brightness. So you have that really herbal sort of full flavor that comes from those robust herbs that I mentioned. Um, Citrus kind of rounds it out. And then we use some of the classic gin botanicals like Angelica root coriander. Those are really there just to give a little bit of dimension and depth to help give some balance to the gin.
Amazing. And I know, Johnny, you've had already a podcast episode here, but we definitely have new listeners. So I'm going to ask probably some questions you've already answered, but help us understand, what does a process look like from start to finish? How long does it take to create your product?
So to make a gin, it is a unique process. I have a picture here if you can see it. I threw it
Wow, yeah.
still. So our distillery is in northern Greece. We use these pretty small traditional copper pot stills that were once used to make ouzo. So to start off, if you look at the top there, that is a bag full of juniper berries. So we take the juniper berries and we macerate it in our neutral spirit to pull a lot of the flavor out of the juniper. So we do that maceration for about 24 hours. Then we put a vapor basket on the top of the still. So basically all the other botanicals I mentioned are infused with vapor. So you can see in there the bay leaves on the top, the mastica, the dried orange and lemon peels are in there. We put that on the top of the still. We close it up and we heat it up. And once it's heated, it's the distillation starts. So we use actually wood fire for our stills. So as it heats it up, basically the vapors from the distillate are rising through the basket like steam, alcoholic steam. It's in a simple way to describe it. And as it's passing through all the botanicals, it's infusing itself with the delicious aromas of the sage, the bay leaf, the mastica, all the citrus gets pulled in through there. After that, one of the most important ingredients with gin, or with any spirit for that matter, is water. Over half of the liquid in the bottle is water. So our water source from the mountains of northern Greece comes from a natural spring called the Loutra Pozar. Our water does have a lot of this fantastic minerality to it, so that gives a little extra body and texture. So after it comes off the still, we bring it down to proof to about 43.5% alcohol by volume. So the whole distillation process takes, a day. And then we rest it in the stainless steel tanks for a few months because spirits need time to rest to allow all the flavors to come together. Then we bottle it, package it, and send it across the world.
Wow. Amazing. I love it. And what year did you start this brand?
It's a long process to get a brand started. Our company began officially in 2018. The first official recipe was finalized in the end of 2019, and our first attempt of a launch happened when our first shipment arrived, March of 2020.
Oh, that's what I was waiting to hear.
Great time to launch anything. That was hard. We got our first shipment right in the beginning of the pandemic. So our launch wasn't really according to plan, but it was still good. We then ended up launching more online. Actually, Foti was a big help there because we were doing cocktail classes and having online presence.
Nice.
So that was our launch. But I guess, our official launch was really 2021.
Okay.
Where that was when we got to be in bars again and got to be in restaurants and got to see bartenders play with it and make cocktails, because that's the whole part of my making a gin, was to get people to experiment with it. I come from a bartending and restaurant background. So as much as I love being in stores and retails, I love seeing the bartenders really come to life and experiment with the product. So that was really, I think, the real true launch of the gin.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and your product is so unique. Again, this isn't just like a classic gin and tonic situation here. You're offering a very unique product that really embodies the flavors of Greece. So naturally with that, there needs to be some sort of experimenting in the restaurant world.
Right.
So now that you've had a few years of kind of having your product in the real world, what are you seeing people doing, and how are people being creative with your product in restaurants that maybe our listeners can try and experiment with at home?
Sure. So the fact that our gin is more savory, herbal, and full-bodied, it lends itself to cocktails in a lot of unique ways. So that herbaceous essence really lends well to more stirred bitter cocktails like a Negroni, because I think our gin really holds up very well against Campari and Sweet Vermouth. I think a lot of gin sometimes get lost in a Negroni. You don't necessarily taste the gin. You're tasting the Campari. Right? That Campari is such a strong modifier. You need to have a gin that is strong too. So our flavors are great in that. I have seen some really fun savory martinis. Think about a martini is one of the like the most important savory cocktails. People mixing olive juice in a martini, like that's how many other drinks are really have that savory, salty backbone. So the ingredients we have in our gin lend really well to complementing either olive brine or a dirty martini for sure. We've seen some fun experimentations adding, things like instead of olives using Kalamata, regular like Spanish olives using Greek olives, Kalamata olives, stuffing olives with feta cheese to play along with the Greek flavors. I have seen some bartenders even do like a sardine stuffed or anchovy stuffed olive or caviar stuffed olives, incorporating another briny, savory ingredient into a cocktail. So, and a lot of cocktails sometimes incorporate, this food element to it. And Stray Dog was really inspired by food and those ingredients. So I love seeing people play with that. Then I will say, having a savory ingredient pairs well with fruit, right? Like sometimes you want to make a drink with grapefruit or strawberry or watermelon, but you don't want it to be a sweet cocktail, but you love the flavors of fruit. Using Stray Dog is a way to really balance with a contrasting flavor pairing. Pairing that herbal with grapefruit for me is like the best combination. So we do see some people mixing Stray Dog with grapefruit soda, which is delicious. We have a cocktail in New York at one of the rooftop bars that's using freshly squeezed watermelon juice, mastica, and Stray Dog. And the Stray Dog just lends itself really well to complementing those more fruity flavors. So there's a lot of different ways you can go, but it's mainly when you're trying to incorporate that herbal savory note or that herbaceousness, that bright tones from the herbs. I think that's where we come in as a really fun gin for cocktails.
Nice. And how do you like to drink your drink at home? How is it served usually?
Oh, it depends. I mean, I hate squeezing lemons at home, so I do like simple cocktails, like a gin and tonic. For me, is one of my favorites because I have an herb garden. I could just pick some herbs from my garden, throw it in the glass, top it off with tonic water, and it's so easy to make at home. If you can get Mediterranean tonic, like the 3 cents Mediterranean, sorry, 3 cents Aegean, or Fever
What's
Tree
the
Mediterranean
difference?
tonic. Well, their classic tonic is just, quinine and some citrus, and then there are so many different tonic flavors out there now. So some brands like Fever Tree has a Mediterranean tonic. 3 Cents is a tonic from Greece called Aegean tonic. They're using ingredients like basil and rosemary and cucumber. So it's, you still have that quinine bitterness that all tonic has, but then adding in other botanicals that lend really well to using with the flavors of our gin. So that's fun. But my wife, when she at home, she just likes like Stray Dog, club soda, a splash of lime. That's it. So there's really no wrong way to drink it. My grandfather, he's probably one of the biggest fans of Stray Dog for many reasons, but I switched him. I got him off of Ouzo, and he's now drinking Stray Dog. He loves just having it on the rocks. That's it, like on the rocks with a lemon twist, because it is very smooth. That's one thing I think if you try Straight Up, you realize it is a very smooth gin. The consistency has a beautiful mouthfeel because of the copper pot stills, but also because of the botanicals we use are very rich in oil. So like that creamy texture comes through. So having it neat or on the rocks is also a fantastic way. If you don't feel like mixing things and being a bartender and cleaning up after yourself, just pour it over ice, That's one of my favorite ways to have it too.
Nice. Sometimes less is more, but it's great that you
Yeah,
can do either. You can get creative and fun with it, or you can just have it really simple.
for sure.
It's the best of both worlds. Yeah. So tell
Yeah.
me, how did the people take it at BCB? You were there this week, right?
So BCB was this week. For those of you who aren't familiar with BCB, it's a bar convent Brooklyn. It's a bar convention now, and I think it's fifth or sixth year in Brooklyn. Originally, it was in Berlin. So the Brooklyn one is the offshoot of the Berlin show. There were over 260 brands there. It's a great way to see what's happening in the industry, connect with other brand owners and brand managers, and see some really cool things. I mean, there's so much excitement in the industry. And I was really proud and fortunate to be included on this awesome panel where we got to discuss terroir and gin. So that was something, that's a subject I've been kind of passionate about. Terroir is a unique concept. And for those of you who aren't familiar with terroir, terroir is a term I think you mainly hear discussed in wine, where you are where it basically terroir is the discussion of the land, meaning like the soil, the slope of the hill, of the valley, the sun exposure, the cloud cover, the microclimate, that weather of that area, and the interaction of the hand of the maker. All these factors play a role in the taste of the final product. And with wine, it is pretty apparent because wine is just one ingredient. It's just grapes. So the grapes take on the flavor of all the things that go into it, nature. Um, Terroir can be expressed in spirits too. You mainly talk about this with some agave-based spirits like mezcal, because they are, again, one ingredient. It's just agave. It's coming from this unique place with unique soil. Gin is not something you typically would talk about terroir because most gins, classic gins, they're importing ingredients from all over the world to make gin. So you think about London Dry Gin, the English, because of the East India trading company. I think that's what it's called. They were importing ingredients from India and from Asia and from all other parts of the world to make their gins. That's why gin is full of unique ingredients, like coriander and vanilla or different citruses. They don't have those things in England, so they're not. So that's not really expressing the land of England, right? It's expressing from all these other places. But with Stray Dog and other gins out there, when you're using ingredients that are local, that are coming from an area nearby the distillery, that are produced by small farmers or foraged, like we use some ingredients that are foraged wildly, I think you are able to express terroir in gin and some gins, many gins, and that's kind of one of our goals is to showcase the flavor of our land. So we basically, the panel at BCB was about discussing that. We had a few other great gins on our panel, like Nika from Japan and Bayab from South Africa, which uses unique botanicals from the Bayab tree. Yeah, it was really an honor to be able to discuss something new that's happening in the gin industry, and also to be a part of something new, a new trend that's kind of emerging right before our eyes. So that was fun.
That's really cool. I'm more of like a gin drinker just for pleasure, and I'm not like a super geek about it, but I find it fascinating. How could you help me and other people who are similar try and if we wanted to do like a gin tasting or do some kind of comparison, where do you even begin? Because I feel like whether it's aromatics or flavor, I wouldn't know what's botanicals and what's terroir. How
Mhm.
can you sort of decipher what it is when you're tasting?
Well, I think if you're trying to taste through a bunch of different gins, start with one of the classics, right? Like Tanqueray or Beefeater. And those are the standard of a London dry, right? Where you get the
Mhm.
juniper, you get the citrus, it's simple and refreshing and bright and classic. And then maybe try a couple of gins from all over the world. You know, there's some great gins from Mexico right now. There's some great gins from Scotland. There's great gins from Italy, our gin from Greece, Japan. So maybe I would say pick like 3 or 4 different countries, and then you can start to see and read the back of the label, read what ingredients are in there, and you should be able to tell what's in them. So, like, a Japanese gin, there's a many out there that incorporate like some green tea or yuzu citrus rather than using lemon or orange. Like we use orange for the Mediterranean. In Asia, you have a lot of great citrus like yuzu, different peppercorns, right? So you can be able to sense those different ingredients just by smelling them. And I think once you put them all in a line and you nose them all separately, you could really determine which botanicals are unique and special for that particular gin. And to answer your question, how do you tell if it's terroir or botanicals? I mean, all the ingredients in a gin besides the spirit are botanicals. So everything you're smelling are coming from the botanicals. the juniper is always the main botanical in gin, which gives that piney, bright flavor. And of course, different junipers give different flavors depending on where the juniper comes from. But then behind the juniper is going to be the citrus to lift it up, give it some brightness and life. And then any other ingredients they use are going to give different dimensions and characteristics. So I don't know. You don't have to be a geek to like gin. I think that's what makes it a fun category, is that out of all the spirits out there, gin is one of the more loose spirits in terms of rules. You can, as long as juniper is the number one botanical by weight and also the most pronounced botanical, the world is your oyster. You know, as a distiller, you're able to be extremely creative with the process. You are able to take creative liberty and incorporate ingredients that either you enjoy or that you find exciting and special. So as a gin consumer, it's really just about what flavors do you like. And you could like a lot of different types of gin. I encourage you to try many different gins. Don't, gin is kind of spirit where I think it's great to just experiment and make and try different things, because I think a gin from a different part of the country or part of the world that uses different ingredients is going to give a different characteristic in a certain cocktail. So, there might not be the best gin for every cocktail. I think each cocktail might have a gin that serves itself best for that, depending on the flavors it gives. So just try new things and see. I think in craft spirits in general, there's so much to explore. So keep tasting. You'll see what you like. You don't need to be a geek about it. It's just about what you enjoy. And I think that's what's fun about gin. Inherently, gin is supposed to be a lighter spirit that pairs with a lot of different types of ingredients and types of beverages. It's meant to be refreshing and easygoing. So at the end of the day, compared to a lot of other spirits out there, gin is a great place to get started, because it is one of the most classic and old school spirits, but it's also one that is experiencing the most development and experimentation in the categories.
I love it. It's inspiring, and it's approachable too. Like, it doesn't have to be scary, and you can just like what you like and continue to try and enjoy the process. I see Foti has a bottle, and like, as you've been talking, he's like sniffing. I think he
couldn't help
approves.
myself. John,
Foti has one of the original bottles there. It's I
you've
saw.
always inspired me to
Yeah,
drink.
that's our original label.
Yeah.
Wow, the OG bottle. I love it.
Yeah, he might have one of from the first batches.
Yeah, bottle.
It says our batch number on there. What batch is it?
Well, this is batch number 2.
Batch number 2, one of the first.
Bottle
And
number
what
2.
batch are you on now?
I don't know.
1,000.
Not two. We're in the double digits at
50,
least.
60. Yeah, we're up.
That's
We're
amazing.
less than 100, but definitely higher than 50, I think.
That's very cool. And Johnny, I know, just as we wrap up, I do want to hear sort of a little bit of like the personal side, the charity side. I know you're involved with some kind of charity, and how does it work? Who are you helping? And like, is it based on sales or by bottle purchase? Or tell me how you're getting involved.
So, Stray Dog, one of the missions behind our gin is to help stray animals. So we call it Stray Dog Wild Gin because the strays embody the wild ingredients that we use in our gin. And it also is because we have a charitable backbone. So we have a few initiatives. Our core initiative is a partnership with a small nonprofit animal shelter based outside of Athens called Save a Greek Stray. Go visit them, saveagreekstray.org. They have a pretty awesome website that once you go on there, you'll really want to adopt one of these cute Greek dogs. Greece has a unique relationship with the stray animals. I feel like a lot of villages have like town dogs, like they become a part of the town, but there definitely is a stray dog issue. So we give a few dollars per case, go to supporting Save a Greek Stray, and goes directly to their charity. We wanted to work with a small charity where I think we felt like our donations could make a big impact. And to this day, our donations have helped feed, house, and provide medicine and neutering and spaying to over 300 dogs in Greece. And then beyond that, we do like to work with local charities in different markets. Once we get into a different state or city, we try to find local shelters that want to partner with us. So we've done a few initiatives called Stray Dog Week, where a particular participating bar could put a cocktail on the menu and we could give $1 to a local animal shelter of their choice per cocktail sold. So we've done a few things like that, more local grassroots style initiatives. But we always try to make a impact with our furry friends out there. So that's been a big initiative of something something we've been proud to spearhead since the beginning of our brand.
Oh, that's amazing. Who doesn't want to like drink gin and help
Hey.
dogs? Count me in. I love it. I'll make sure we put the link of the charity in the description of the podcast for
Sure.
anyone who's interested and wants to look into it.
Yeah,
But
they're
that's
great. You
amazing.
know, they were huge. There was, last few years there were wildfires in Greece, and some of them actually went close to their area. So they help other animals too, not just dogs. They help cats. They were taking in horses and farm animals that were displaced because of the wildfires. So they're just amazing people behind that charity. And every year they do a huge adoption drive in Athens, and they're doing a really nice job getting more people aware and adopting rather than, just getting a breeder dog. And so we're seeing a lot of great initiatives and work done from them. So we're happy to be at least a small part of their development.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Excellent. Well, Johnny, once again, another enjoyable segment with you as always. I all continuously learn every time we talk. I keep wanting to drink more gin. I think we need to talk more so I can drink more gin.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for the time. I want to thank Claudia. If you have any last minute closing comments or remarks, Claudia, for us.
No comments. Just super excited and inspiring too, because again, wine is more my area of expertise, but I'm definitely a fan of gin. And this is just a reminder to continue to expand and try new things and have fun with it.
Excellent.
sure.
Excellent. Well, we wanted to thank once again, Johnny, thank you so much. Claudia, thank you for the inclusion of your great inspiration to these segments. Yamas, till next time. Thank you for
Cheers.
watching, everyone. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks.